Eza seyo molimo santu Motema nanga ezo kabapote Machwa izo neba jijma ya bato Je me suis élevé nangu ya nayo Kutikanga tezilezana numulai. Shalom all, welcome back to my YouTube channel Black Victors. I'm reading from 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 1 to 13. So in this chapter, we learn that God demoted Saul from his position of king because of disobedience. So Prophet Samuel cried for so long because he was the one that had actually consecrated King Saul, but God demoted him. So the Lord said to Prophet Samuel, how long will you cry for Saul? Because I have already rejected him as king over Israel. So Samuel, fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I'm sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem because I have chosen one of his sons as king of Israel. But Samuel said to the Lord, how can I go there? If Saul hears about this, he'll kill me. The Lord told Samuel, take a heifer with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. You are to anoint for me the one I indicate. Samuel feared for his life because he knew how powerful King Saul was. But he failed to understand that God was going to accommodate and preserve him from the hands of King Saul. And that's why God had to give him instructions and what to say upon his arrival in that town, in Bethlehem. Therefore, Samuel did as instructed by God, and when he arrived in the town of Bethlehem, the elders of the town trembled upon meeting him, and they inquired, do you come here in peace? The elders trembled because they knew how powerful Prophet Samuel was. They knew that whenever he came in the town, it was either good news or bad news from God. But Prophet Samuel replied, yes, I have come in peace here. I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Consecrate yourselves and come to the sacrifice with me. Then after that, Prophet Samuel consecrated Jesse and his sons and invited them to the sacrifice. When they arrived, Prophet Samuel saw Eliab, the oldest son of Jesse, and thought, surely the Lord has anointed this one that is standing before me. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things that people look at. People look at the outward appearances, but the Lord looks at the heart. This is the reality of all humanity. We overlook at people because of their social statuses and physical appearances, rather than their qualities and credibilities. We assess people based on social status and disregard their gifts and callings. This has also been a reality for me in so many domains. I've been rejected, I've been used, I've been manipulated, I've been taken advantage of, I've been scammed, I've been rejected, I've been judged because of my physical appearances. But guess what? God has continued to elevate me, has been blessing me abundantly. He has been allowing me to go through so many domains that I could never go through had I been there by myself, or even just to try to go there by myself. But through the guidance of God, I've been able to go through different positions and just acquire so many things that other people have not been able to acquire. Then Jesse called Abinadab and had him pass before Prophet Samuel again. But Prophet Samuel said, the Lord has not chosen this one. Then Jesse had another son of his, Shema, to pass before Prophet Samuel. And Prophet Samuel said, nor has the Lord chosen this one. Jesse had all of his 7 sons pass before Prophet Samuel to be chosen as king of Israel, but God rejected them all. And then after that, Prophet Samuel asked Jesse, "Are these all the sons you have?" And Jesse said, "No, there's still the youngest one. He's tending to the sheep in the wilderness." Then Prophet Samuel said, "Send for him. We will not sit down until he comes." So God works in very mysterious ways. Jesse had brought his favorite sons to the consecration, thinking one of those sons were to be consecrated as king of Israel, but God rejected them all. It wasn't until Prophet Samuel inquired if he had more sons. That's when he revealed that he had another son, a shepherd in the wilderness. He described David as a shepherd, not knowing that David was shepherding animals in the wilderness, and that was the training that God was putting him through so he could shepherd his people of Israel. God was preparing him to be a great leader. For him to be a great leader for a nation, he had to, first of all, know how to shepherd animals in the wilderness. So Jesse sent for David, and when David was brought in by his brothers, he walked in, he was glowing with health and had a very fine appearance and handsome features. Then the Lord said to Samuel, "Rise up and anoint him. This is the one I have chosen." So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed David in the presence of his family, in the presence of his father, in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. And Samuel went on his way to Ramah. In this passage, God teaches me that He changes the unchangeable. Many a times we put people into categories of qualified and unqualified, but we do not know what God has placed in them. Jesse did not consider David as king because he was used to sending him in the wilderness to go shepherd the animals. But little did he know that God had already preordained him as a leader of his people, as we learn in the book of Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 4 to 5. He had his 7 sons pass before Prophet Samuel, but none of them were chosen. David was shepherding the flocks of animals in the wilderness to be prepared to shepherd the nation of Israel. The Israelites needed a leader that was anointed and ordained by God. David didn't come from a royal family, but God made him king of Israel by firstly training him in the wilderness. David could not have been a great leader hadn't he begun his mission and his purpose in the wilderness. God had to qualify him when his father saw him as unqualified. God had to qualify him despite his position in his family. David was elevated from shepherdship to kingship because God knew who he was before he was conceived. God will accommodate us to penetrate the impenetrable by abiding to his divine planning. Stay tuned for more exhortation from this passage.